So ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Christine.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming, despite this being very early. So I'll be talking about a topic that is not usually being talked about in terms of blockchain games, and these are autonomous worlds. Um, since now we're on autonomous worlds, I know these are two words that might not have meaning, but when you put them together, they make for really amazing use cases. So autonomous means it's something that even that is not managed by a central authority. So autonomous means that the worlds don't have to be controlled by anyone. And what are worlds? So yeah, anyone can create worlds. So authors, artists, creators, basically anyone can create worlds. And because it only consists of three things. The first is that your world has a narrative. It has a single truth that everyone abides by. Like, what is the lore of your world? What is the story? So, and then the next one is that it has its built-in rules, which is the inter-objective reality that everyone within that world is agreeing with. So they play by the same rules. So that was the second. And then the third is that the actions from its participants, the citizens of that world, affects the state of it. So when you think about it, there are a lot of examples of worlds. There are stories in books where the characters can affect what's within that world, and the world was created by the author, and the characters is kind of it's not permissionless. The author has to create the characters. Nobody else except the author is in control of that world. Now, if you're, I know you're all familiar with this already, but as what Daniel has mentioned before, we have a web that is read only. It's only meant to broadcast information to the rest of the world. And then we had Web 2, which is read and write. We suddenly have user-generated content, but is controlled by centrally owned servers who can share or sell your data in any way they like. And now we're transitioning into Web 3, which is read, write, and own. So people can now own digital assets that nobody else can control aside from the owners of the private keys. So in the beginning, we only have non-permissionless world where only single authors or single entities can create or control that world. But blockchain technology changed that. So we only have one autonomous world in the beginning, which is the reality we currently have right now. This is the only world where anyone can change the state, anyone can own something, anyone can control what they do. But blockchain changed that. Now we have a medium where we can create a world where people can own things, can change the universal state of that world. So before, we have non-persistent, centrally owned worlds. Like what I said, there are stories created by authors. There are centralized games that are handled by the core developers and central servers. And then we have the banking system. And we have crypto Twitter. Well, crypto Twitter has user-generated content, but all the content in that was controlled by the corporation or Elon Musk or whoever. And then, ETHKL is also an example of a world where we have rules, we have a narrative, we have a system where we have events and we have these rooms and we have side events. So think of worlds as something that has a narrative, a rule that everyone is playing in, and then everyone can change the state of the world. Like anyone can be a participant. But expanding to that, we now have worlds that are multi-author, expandable, persistent. So what does it mean is that not even when the creator or the producer of that world is gone tomorrow, the world will still persist. Anyone can add rules to that world. Anyone can add characters or or new narratives to that. They can expand it because that's the nature of smart contracts. It's composable. Anyone can add to it. Anyone um, can change the state of the blockchain as long as they're a participant of that world. And some of these protocols are permissionless. So these are worlds no one can unplug. Even when the creator of your application or your game is suddenly gone in the next hour, this game will persist. These games will still be playable, and these games can still be moddable by anyone. If they want to continue the lore of the game, then anyone can just go in and add whatever they want to add to that game. So, by the way, the characteristic of autonomous worlds is that they're autonomous, right? So, unlike other games sometimes you only upload or you only make on-chain the assets in that game, autonomous worlds also has their game logic on-chain because that's what makes it playable even when there is no centrally owned servers that is hosting the game. So if you can create autonomous world with its own rules and reality, now what can we do with it? So again, we have persistent multi-author games. So if you don't like having games that are pay gated, then you can create your own version where there is no gating for parts of your game, and then let anyone just play it. And then we can have different games that share the same assets and states or characters or anything, because the tables of that game will can just tap into the same supply source of data. So you can have games where you require a player to finish a certain level on this game before you can play something on the other game, or you can have games that are partners with each other where the players has to look for a special item on one game and then use it on another. So the possibilities are endless with this one. You can create a universe of games permissionlessly. Anyone can just tap into the world that is created by one game and then create another one and actually use whatever data and transaction has happened in the other game. So we're going to have interconnected games with this. So another one is user-generated games mods. So there are games that are at the end of their life cycle where the core developers decided to not support it anymore or no longer add to it. So what can be the next logical transition to that? We can use autonomous worlds for this end of service games where if people still want to play it or still think that the game deserves another level or a continuation, then they can just create it and add a mod to it because the entire logic of the game is on chain, and they can just add whatever they like. And then yeah, even when the core developers or the owners or the creators of the game is gone, then they can still continue it. The last one is games with on-chain superpowers, which is what I am personally interested in, because this blurs the line between games and reality. Because in on-chain, it's not just games that are being used by the citizens of the blockchain world. Everyone is also using it in different ways. There are RWAs, there's DeFi, there are things that we value that is on-chain. So if your game is already in that space, then you can connect your game to something that we value. So yeah, we can have real-time data through through oracles, like we can have games that are being affected by the current weather pattern in your location. We can have games that are connected to the markets. We can have games that are connected to any real world happening. So it makes for an unpredictable gameplay and also somewhat related to what is physically happening in the world. So we can have direct integration with permissionless markets, yeah, like DeFi. So these are things that raise the stakes of being in the game, because you are the same person who owns these real world assets that is going into the game, and you get in, and when you get into these worlds, you bring your you bring all the things you own with you. So yeah, these are the new types of games that are possible when you on-chain the logic of your of your game. So now we're talking about real world. We're also seeing the possibilities of experimental economies with games. So if you are curious, there are certain applications that are playing with experimental economies and experimental policies within games. So they are observing how people will behave or react when they use a certain system, and they implement it through smart contracts. So simulated realities and economies in games is possible if you try to on-chain all the logic and the rules they're playing by. So yeah, it's basically a world. There can basically be worlds where economies can be tested, observed, and people's behaviors can be seen and measured and yeah, tested. Okay. I Yeah. So the possibilities there are possibilities and limits to autonomous worlds. As I've said, the possibility is that the code is up there and anyone can just mod the game. The player history is also there, so you're bringing your whole person with you. You have your history inside the game. You don't have to be a new player to each game you enter. There are direct P2P marketplaces where people can just sell the assets they create inside the game, and it doesn't matter whether it came from the original game creators. They can just trade it, mod things, and all that. But the limit is that since games are are heavy in transactions and heavy in rights, and yeah, it doesn't make sense to use the blockchain, because we have limits in terms of latency. So we need a specialized infrastructure for that to enable blockchain to have games with on-chain logic, and some fully on-chain games as well. So we also need off-chain services for managing complex behaviors and features. Like, for example, we're doing a multiplayer RPG. Yeah, I'm running out of time. And also, we must mind UX, since we're talking about people who might not be literate with using blockchain elements, like, for example, wallets. These are players who are playing for fun and not for speculation. So we must find the infrastructure to help people, to help actual users, the mass consumers, get into these autonomous worlds. So I haven't told what BreederDAO is doing. So we're building a project that will enable people and developers to easily build autonomous worlds. We're making a scalable infrastructure that will enable this to happen. So if you're interested in experimenting with autonomous worlds, then you can schedule a call with me or just message me or anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.